starts now.
Happy Friday, everybody. It is great to have you with us as we start First Alert 6 streaming. I'm Erin Hartley, joined by meteorologist Jarrett Lansford and Senior Chief Meteorologist Rusty Lord. The story of today is the heat and the humidity as more kids go back to school.
Yeah, and you're going to see 92 for the high, and you think, oh, it's not that bad. But it's mostly about the humidity. That's going to be up there, and that's what's really going to drive the heat index value today. So let's talk about that. You mentioned kids going back to school. Bellevue, the rest of the high school filtering back in today. So you're back to it, and now that means all of Westside and all of Bellevue back at it for the school year, and we'll add a ton more back into play next week. 76 to near 80 degrees. That's the warming that we'll have during the course of the morning, with a south wind that's starting to kick in as well. Weather headlines with the beautiful sunrise. Today's going to be the hottest day of the week pretty easily. And then warm and muggy conditions will continue into the weekend with a few rain chances. Muggy's the story, though. A lot of moisture in the air over the weekend, and another climb into the 90s by the end of next week. Keep that in mind. But mid-70s right now. Doesn't vary too much from that 75-degree mark over most of the metro. You get outside the metro, you can see a little more variation, but lower 70s to upper 70s. Again, everybody waking up in the 70s here. Muggy meter, that's where the key to the day is. Notice how it actually goes up over the course of the day, and I think that is what happened. Yesterday it did that as well. As we got into the afternoon, got some higher dew points. That'll be the case today, and that is what's going to help push that heat index value up into the triple digits. Not so much the air temperature, but you can see 100 plus for several hours. It's going to make it pretty darn hot and humid out there over the course of the day. Wind gusts also help bring in a little bit of that heat and humidity. Out of the south, they'll be pretty consistently trying to go 20 to 30 miles per hour with the wind gusts today. And you can see by 3 o'clock, we're mid-90s, so you can see how steadily we'll warm over the course of the next several hours. But normally air that has a little more moisture in it, a little tougher to change the temperature of it. So that's why we might not move any more than about 15 to 20 degrees today, just because of the high humidity in the air. By 7 o'clock, we're near 90. Again, still pretty quiet by 10. Overnight tonight, pay attention. There could be a couple of storms, especially if you're north of I-80. I don't expect anything widespread, but it is possible that one or two of these tries to strengthen a little bit if they can get going and produce a little wind in the green shaded area. So we'll watch that. This is the severe weather risk area for today and tonight. So this accounts for anything all the way through the overnight up to about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And then we show you Saturdays, and it basically drops southeast as this little front moves through, and pretty low risk as well. Sunday presses all the way to the south, so I'm not overly concerned about severe weather there. But over the course of the next several days, you may see rain chances in the forecast and think, oh boy, it's going to be a washout of a weekend. Well, that's not the case. We are not going to see all-day rain. It's just going to be hit and miss stuff. You can see some of it really doesn't add up much at all. The bigger rain totals, especially Sunday, are going to be Falls City, Maryville, and point south into Missouri and Kansas, the way things look most likely. So you see the rain chances. I don't think they're all too much to worry about. Just want you to know it is possible. Okay, that's good to know. In the meantime, as we get into the weekend, even looking into next week, how's that humidity going to persist? And even when the temperatures back off, I still think humidity is going to be noteworthy. So pay attention to that over the course of the next several days, because pretty high today, and it's still going to be up there this weekend and still on the edge of muggy and steamy all the way to the end of next week. And notice this little uptick right here. That's going to pair up with, I think, another round of heat, and it's starting to maybe show its cards for the end of next week. So we're a lot of upper 80s, lower 90s, and then some prolonged, at least lower 90s for the next weekend. So pay attention to that. If there's anything noteworthy in the long range, it might be an extended wave of some heat that gives us a lot of 90s. Hopefully it's nothing too hot and humid, but we'll see what that turns into by the end of next week. Okay, sounds good. In the meantime, transitioning over to traffic this morning. Couple of slow spots we're tracking. Yeah, and I'm going to start at 680 and Dot, just one area where I'm seeing things kind of start to bottle up a little bit. It's been a pretty quiet start to our day, but now we're adding more vehicles. We're getting some of those areas that are slowing down some. So let's take a look at that and how things are progressing here as we get more drivers up and running. And it is especially on the ramp where I've seen some of the delays as you're trying to go from 680 to westbound Dodge. Now, right now, it actually looks pretty good as we're looking at the camera.
swear it was slow, but when we look at the map here, you can see how that's kind of showing up. We've been looking at some delays from time to time through this stretch, and so you want to be prepared for that possibility as you're heading into that area at 680 and Dodge. Some other spots that I'm keeping an eye on also line up with some construction zones, and right now we're doing okay on Mercy. We've seen some pretty sizable delays at times this morning too, eastbound as you're approaching 72nd. That's a long-term project, so keep that in mind. A little further up 72nd, right near 72nd and Dodge, this is likely just some peak of the commute type of slowdowns that you're seeing there on Dodge, but keep in mind that you do have to get into the right-hand side with lane restriction just south of Dodge on 72nd. So that could be a problem for southbound drivers. Speaking of, this has just been a total mess lately on 72nd between about Maple and down towards Seward. Some ongoing construction in that area. What I've gotten for updated information is that this is now scheduled through tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that does get pushed back a little bit. So be expecting that area to remain slow here over the next couple of days. One more area where you may run into some delays here is the increased traffic due to the ongoing Pinnacle Bank Championship. That's 204th and Maple. You can see it's a little slow right near that immediate intersection, mostly doing pretty well. And you can see that things are starting to pick up on our roads with some of those kind of specks of yellow that are showing up. Nothing major for delays, but certainly we'll keep an eye on it and how things are progressing. Of course, with some schools that are back in session today, we're going to be looking at specific areas that slow down. We'll check in on some of those in Bellevue and around West Side as well in a bit.
Okay, we know you will. Jared, thank you. Authorities have identified the man they believe shot and killed his own neighbors in Glenwood, Iowa. 71-year-old Dennis Burnell was taken into custody and was sent to the hospital with potentially life-threatening injuries. The shooting victims have now been identified as 38-year-old Brandon Oman and his wife, 35-year-old Stevie Oman. Sarah Albritton is just one of the several neighbors that we spoke to who are still processing the shooting and also the explosion and the fire that happened shortly thereafter. Now, she has two kids, a 9-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. The plan for her daughter was to start walking to school nearby. Now that plan is off.
And now I have this in the back of my mind. Is it even safe? Is there somebody else who has a similar background? Will it be safe for her to walk to school? And that was another reason that drew me to a town like this, is I wouldn't have to worry as much about her safety if she's out and about and on her own.
Investigators say the shooting stemmed from a dispute between the suspect and the victims. You can find much more of our Glenwood coverage up on our website, firstalert6.com. There you can find video of the fire, that full news release from investigators, also a statement from Glenwood's mayor, and much more community reaction. We're getting some new details this morning on a deadly police chase. The Nebraska State Patrol says a man who sped off from police died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Troopers say they pulled over a pickup on I-80 near 96. The driver reportedly sped off, heading for 680 and firing at troopers. He went off the roadway, hitting a tree in the backyard near 88th and Sunrise. Police found him shot inside of his truck. He died at the hospital. With Marie Kay now over here at the safety desk, some back to school stuff to talk about. Some anxiety also can be very prevalent for students. What are some of the ways the experts say can ease some of this?
Well, that new year, every time it can cause some stress for students, and with all those new classes, new friends, teachers, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So experts say the first way to help with the transition back to school is to take the time to talk with your kids and really be an active listener. Next, you want to establish routines. So create a regular sleep schedule, have the meal times at the same time and homework at the same time. That consistency, it can really help ease the anxiety of something new. Finally, you want to spot the signs of some more significant anxiety or even depression in kids. That could include sleep changes, excessive self-doubt, lack of interest in the things they used to enjoy, or struggles connecting to others.
Really leaning into that intuition that you have about your child and knowing when it's time to seek help from a medical professional is important.
Experts say it's also important for parents to be a really positive and a sturdy presence in their kids' lives. You want to make sure to validate whatever they're feeling. That's going to make them feel better.
Being a good listener, that's a really good tip.
I agree.
Okay, Marie Kay, thank you. We're back after this. All right, welcome back here. Time now 7:14 as we get started on this Friday morning. Once again, going to be a humid forecast for this Friday. How is that going to be holding up for the kiddos also, too?
Yeah, so if you still haven't headed to school yet and you want to get in some pool time, you got a pretty good day. You just got to be mindful of the heat and make sure you wear your sunscreen today. It will be a little cooler tomorrow, possibility of a couple of thunderstorms in the afternoon. But either day should be okay. Just remember, today is going to be the hottest with the most humidity. There is a heat advisory today for those peak hours in the middle of the afternoon. Smoke forecast is something to watch as well. That has improved quite a bit, actually, over the last couple of days. We've thinned out a lot of the smoke. You may notice a little haze passing overhead. But between today and tomorrow, you will notice that it should get gradually better over the next 48 hours, which is good news. Now, highs over the next few days. Today's easily going to be the hottest, up to 92. And we'll have a lot of 80s beyond that into early next week, which is right about average or just a little bit below. This is the key to the day today. Notice how the dew point's in the steamy range, and that doesn't change all day long, and may even go up a little bit. That is why we have the heat advisory, and that is why our heat index could get up near 100 or greater this afternoon. When you factor in those low 90s and that humidity, and that's what is going to push the number up. The air is going to have a lot of moisture in it, not only today, but then through the weekend as well. So plan accordingly. South winds will gust 20 to 30 miles per hour the way it looks through the course of the day. So at least that'll keep the air moving a little bit, but it just reinforces the heat and the humidity, unfortunately. Now, there are a couple of thunderstorm chances as we look at things. Here's a quick check of Saturdays. We could have a few in the morning that drift through, and then by the late afternoon or evening, there's not too much left. So, again, keep the chances low. Spotty thunder showers, what we'll call it. I don't think it's going to be widespread rain for us, and then could have a few more on Sunday as well. But I think those are either very early or very late with a lot of dry hours in between. So if you're planning things out for the weekend, just remember, it's not going to be a washout of a weekend.
Okay, good to know, good to know. As far as we get into next week, are we going to be getting back up into the 90s? And does that humidity also kind of persist?
Yes and yes, okay, on both of those, because that, I think, it may end up being the story by the end of next week. Let's jump ahead and I'll show you this map here. This is the heat that we have over top of us today. That subsides and we get some cooler colors, yellows and greens, heading into the early part of next week. But watch, by the end of the week, we get another surge of some heat towards Thursday, Friday, and those warmer colors return by next weekend. And this could be a little more widespread for a good portion of the country. And you see that in the 10-day forecast here, because the 80s in humidity that we have into early next week, I think are going to turn into 90s in humidity. And getting those overnight lows to cool off much may be the key to the forecast. Hopefully it's nothing atrocious with some high 90s, but right now it's looking like low 90s over much of the area. And even go beyond that, warmer than average is still trying to win out in the middle of the month. Now remember, averages fall off into the mid 80s for that time of year. So again, upper 80s and lower 90s. Hopefully this doesn't result in just a big, long-lived heat wave here to round out summer, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. All right, have to see in the meantime.
Right in time for back to school.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Perfect.
In the meantime, for back to school, of course, a lot more people are going to be hitting the roads this morning. So if you're driving around, if you don't have kids, you're probably wondering, what's going on? Why is there more traffic? So how's that holding up this morning?
Yeah, it's that adjustment period we always have right around this time of year. As we're sending all those kids back to the classroom. You've got all the parents that are hitting the road, taking the kids to school. So let's check in on some of those areas. And with specifically the high school students for Bellevue that weren't in session yesterday, being the ones that are back in the classroom, you can see Cornhusker now starting to slow down a little bit as you're getting in the immediate vicinity of the JFK and right around 15th. And of course, that's where we have Bellevue West High is right around there. So that's an area that you could encounter some of those traffic flow changes that we're talking about. Also lining up very well with Bellevue East as you're getting on Harville, right around the Freeman, Lincoln areas. You're seeing some delays that are showing up there. So this is the sort of thing we're talking about. Yesterday, there were all sorts of issues on Fairview as you were between 25th and the JFK. It does look better this morning. We'll keep an eye on the next hour or so to see if that does start to flare up again, but it is at least looking better. You, of course, got to watch all those elementary school, middle school areas. The high schools are where we're checking out here. West Side High, where you're seeing some delays again showing up on Pacific. This does look a little better than yesterday. So all part of that adjustment process. And remember that next week we've got a whole slew of schools that are going back into session, especially on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That includes OPS, Millard, Ralston, you name through the list. We've got a lot of Nebraska schools. So we're just going to be continuing to track this as we go through the next couple of weeks with all of that traffic load increase.
Yep, absolutely. Jared, thank you. A Nebraska-based program called Impact Ed is rolling out brand new videos for teachers this year. They're aimed at improving math proficiency for students in kindergarten through 8th grade. One teacher says she is excited to use the training videos, and while she feels pretty confident, she says there's always more room to grow.
I would love to get more comfortable with our state standards, and I just know the studies behind understanding math conceptually and how that is a game changer for students and teachers alike. I am ready to grow in that area of just teaching my students conceptually why we are doing what we're doing in math to help them in life, because that's what we do as teachers. We're setting our students up for life.
Omaha Public Schools will be among the first districts to start using the videos. Happening today, UNMC is hosting its second annual Back to School rally. Students can get a free backpack and shop through UNMC's school supply store. It goes from 3 to 6 near 30th and Burdett. Still ahead, get your binoculars ready when you could expect a glimpse of a full moon when we come back.
Well, starting tonight, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of the August full moon, also called the sturgeon moon.
So Earth Sky says it'll be at the fullest around 2:55 tomorrow morning if you're awake. Anybody looking up would be able to see it, whether they live in the city or the suburbs. And getting ready, and if getting up in the wee hours isn't for you necessarily, don't worry. A NASA scientist says it will appear to be a full moon for a couple of days.
All right.
How about that?
Yeah, I won't be getting up to see that.
Me neither.
But that's good to know.
I guess, yeah.
Took a couple astronomy classes in college. I did not do well, but there are people that enjoy
Really?
that sort of
I was going to say, because former meteorologist David Keller, for
Oh,
folks who've
loves
been
it.
watching, was totally into it, astrology and astronomy.
Yep, loves it all, and well, it's yeah. So full moons like that, and then anytime we get meteor showers, I always have to read up a little bit and learn about it because I don't know a lot of what's going on.
Interesting. Because you, again, do more of the forecasting.
Yeah,
not
that's outer space.
yeah.
I always kind of end up looking up when the full moon is, because sometimes you can just kind of notice it from
Oh, yeah.
people's behavior of what's going on.
Oh.
But
I know. Is anybody feeling
Something's
off?
in the air.
Not right now, anyway.
Could change though.
I don't know.
Tonight.
Could be.
2:55 a.m.
I know.
Go back and tell us.
Everybody will wake up then and go.
I know, feeling, where am I? What's going on? All right, we'll have to see. All right, time now for our First Alert 6 team to prepare us for an update for the Today Show. We'll give you a bird's eye view while we work. You can watch that cut in right here on the stream or over the air. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend.
Live from WOWT, First Alert 6 starts now.
All right, time now 7:26 on this Friday morning. It is good to have you with us. I'm Erin Hartley. I was going to update on the roads this morning with Jarrett Lansford.
And let's start on 72nd because that's an area where we're really seeing some problems. This has been consistent through the week, but if you haven't traveled on 72nd between about Maple and Seward, be ready for it to be very slow as construction continues in that area. A little further to the south, you're starting to see some checking up happening as you're getting just past Dodge. You've got a lane closure on the left-hand side, and you can see how that is impacting things there. We zoom things out, we're mostly moving along pretty well. Do watch Bellevue and then right around West Side High, where we have more back-to-school traffic in place for today. Could be some slowdowns around some of those schools. Rusty.
Yeah, the rest of Bellevue heading back today, so that's 2 school districts in session and a ton more heading back next week, and hopefully just a little bit cooler. Got a heat advisory today. Heat index values go 100 to 105 over the entire area, but the air temperatures might not look all that bad while this happens, and I'll show you why it's a bigger deal. We got mid-70s right now, and we should be able to warm into the lower 90s today. But the mugginess, the humidity, the muggy meter way up here and climbing today is the problem. And that's what's going to make it feel so much hotter, just because you can't cool off nearly as easily when the dew points are this high. So 92 for the air temperature, and it should feel like 100 to 105 a good chunk of the afternoon. Aaron?
Well, UNMC is hosting its second annual back-to-school rally today. Students can get a free backpack and shop through UNMC's school supply store. It runs from 3 to 6. At the time now, 7:27. Back here in about 25 minutes with another update.